Jared, and when Enoch was taken up to God, he gave them to Methuselah, his son. And at the death of Methuselah, Noah took them and brought them to the ark, and they were with him until he went out of the ark.
So Noah and his family, they carried on the customs and the ways of the Most High God correctly. They had family heirlooms, right? Like any family. And they allowed the animals, the animals came into the ark with them. So everything that Noah and them had from them, their family history, it was with them in the ark.
And just to keep with where we're going, Elder has us in Yashaya, and we went to Genesis chapter 10 first, beginning at verse 7?
Yes.
But if you begin at verse 1, you'll see that the sons of Noah, that this is the lineage of Noah. So that is the reference and the connection that you would have looking in the book of Yashaya, reading what we're reading now. Even though in Yashaya it starts from after the death of Adam and his wife, it still moves you through to understand that from Enoch to Methuselah to Noah, these garments came. In Genesis chapter 10, beginning at verse 1, you'll see the lineage as well, leading you and showing you the sons of Noah, and therefore after the flood and how they populated the land.
So yeah, because the book of Jasher, brothers and sisters, is history documented more history in depth on what happened in Genesis.
Right.
Genesis only gives you an insert, but the book of Jasher was written by our forefathers as more history to give you to read between the lines. Okay? Because you read chapter 10 from verse 1 all the way down, you won't find that. All right, the more in depth.
But the one tells you about Noah. So, of course, we're talking about Nimrod. That's why I made that statement, because Noah's lineage, Nimrod's lineage is certainly derived from, is carried back from Noah, on and forward. But because of the scriptures that we did read out of Genesis chapter 10, we wouldn't have necessarily known that Noah was connected, and that's leading up to Nimrod.
Okay.
All right. Verse 27, and again, we're in the book of Joshua, chapter 7, beginning in verse 27. And in their going out, Ham stole those garments.
Now, who is Ham, prophet?
Ham, according to Genesis chapter 10, is the brother, correct?
He is Noah's son.
Noah's son.
Right. And he is the father of Cush. Cush is the father of who?
Which is that's what I was saying.
Exactly. Keep reading.
So that's why the whole lineage would have been more beneficial. So, and in their going out, Ham, who is the son of Noah, but the father of Cush.
Yep.
Stole those garments from Noah, his father, and he took them and hid them from his brothers.
Now, brothers, why would Ham, Noah's son, steal the garments? What's special about these garments here? What's going on with these garments? There had to be something, because Noah made sure that they carried those with them in the ark. These were the garments that covered Adam and Eve.
Well, I mean, if we just think on our own, what's special? You said, why would he get them? Well, you kind of given us the answer by saying that they're special garments. What makes them special? Who has anything that the Most High made there with his hands? Who has anything that he made with his very own hands to cover his people, his creation? So, of course, they're special because they were touched by the hand of the Most High.
Exactly.
So they hold something special. And if you even think about the representation there, they were made during a time where man, I believe in my spirit, was at his pinnacle, because you were fully everything. Adam had everything that he needed. He didn't realize it, but had everything that he needed. They walked in a supernatural way at that time before the fall. And so even with them falling at that time and these garments being made for that purpose, to cover them up because they were aware that they were naked, if you look at the history of man, they lived for an enormous amount of time. So they still held some sort of spiritual, supernatural prowess, if you will, as it were, even after the fall. And as time moves on, you'll see that the number of man's days decline. Right,
Papa. And because the garments were used to cover Adam and Eve, it took skill to kill the animals, right? So, of course, the greatest hunter would so-called wear those garments, wouldn't you say? Right? So let's keep reading.
or would want to wear the garment,
right,
as a representation of what his mighty skills could do.
right.
But I think they would want to. I would want to touch something that the Most High had made for me, and that's just my perspective. Probably just a woman's perspective.
Read verse 27 again.
Verse 27. And in their going out, Ham stole those garments from Noah, his father, and he took them and hid them from his brothers. And when Ham begat his firstborn, Cush, he gave him the garments in secret. And they were with Cush many days.
Many days. So they stayed in that family line. They stayed on Ham's side for a long time, right? Keep reading, bro.
And Cush also concealed them. So he hid them also from his sons and brothers. And when Cush had begotten Nimrod, he gave him those garments.
Wait a minute.
Through his love for him. And Nimrod grew up, and when he was 20 years old, he put on those garments. And Nimrod became strong when he put on the garment.
Wait a minute. Nimrod became what?
Strong when he put on the garment.
Nimrod became strong when he put on the garments. He didn't put them on until he was 20. Okay? But the scriptures say he became strong when he put on the garments. And that's what me and Prophet is bringing out. Those garments were touched by the Most High, and they gave this man a special ability. Okay? All right? We're going to find out exactly what Nimrod did. Keep reading, Prophet.
All right. And Nimrod became strong when he put on the garments. We have verse 30 in Joshua chapter 7. And God gave him might and strength. And he was a mighty hunter in the earth. Yes, he was a mighty hunter in the field, and he hunted the animals, and he built altars, and he offered upon them the animals before the Lord.
Now, how did Nimrod know to do this? Right? Because he was taught this by his father, grandfather, and everything. They knew who to worship the Most High. They knew how to build altars. They knew who was really the Most High, right? But something happened in Nimrod. He became a mighty hunter, right? Keep reading, Prophet.
And Nimrod strengthened himself, and he rose up from amongst his brethren, and he fought the battles of his brethren against all their enemies round about.
Okay.
And the Lord delivered all the enemies of his brothers in his hands. And God, the Most High, prospered him from time to time in his battles, and he reigned upon earth.
Okay.
Therefore, it became current in those days when a man ushered forth those that he had trained up for battle, he would say to them, like the Most High God did to Nimrod, who was a mighty hunter in the earth, and who succeeded in the battles that prevailed against his brothers, that he delivered them from the hands of their enemies. So may God, the Most High, strengthen us and deliver us in this day.
So that was a famous battle cry. You know what? You want to be like Nimrod when you were in the battle. Because Nimrod had a reputation that the Most High would deliver him, right? And we read in the book of Joshua at one time, Nimrod built altars unto the Most High. He did sacrifices, okay? So he knew right from wrong, right?
Which is why the Most High was with him in the first place.
Which is why
we have to know that.
Which is the main reason why the Most High was with him. But the garments, now I'm going right back to the garments. Those garments gave him a special ability.
Right.
Keep reading, brother.
And Nimrod went forth at that time. And when Nimrod was 40, and we have verse 34. And when Nimrod was 40 years old.
Something happened at 40.
At that time, there was a war between his brethren and the children of Japheth, so that they were in the power of their enemies. And Nimrod went forth at that time, and he assembled all of the sons of Cush and their families, about 460 men. And he hired also from some of his friends and acquaintances about 80 men, and he gave them their hire. And he went with them to battle. And when he was on the road, Nimrod strengthened the hearts of the men of the people that went with him.
Like any good general, any good leader would do, motivate your people, inspire your people. Go ahead.
And he said to them, do not fear, neither be alarmed, for all our enemies will be delivered into our hands, and you may do with them as you please. And all the men that went were about 500, and they fought against their enemies, and they destroyed them and subdued them, and Nimrod placed standing officers over them in their respective places.
Now, what did he do?
And he took some of their children as security, and they were all servants to Nimrod and to his brethren. And Nimrod and all the people that were with him turned homeward. And when Nimrod had joyfully returned from battle, after having conquered his enemies, all his brethren, together with those who knew him before, assembled to make him king over them, and they placed the regal crown upon his head.
So Nimrod was the first king upon earth. Okay? He was the first so-called king on the earth. And the Most High gave him that authority, gave him that position. He started off right doing this, okay? But like with any man that gets power and authority, he can become corrupt. Something happened to Nimrod, brothers and sisters. Keep reading, Prophet.
Verse 40, and he set over his subjects and people, princes, judges, and rulers, as is the custom amongst kings.
Now, before we go into verse 41, the Most High is already opening up doors for his patriots to come through this line here. All right? A king will set people in authority in the places up under them, right, to be rulers. Read it, prophets. Go ahead.
Verse 41. And he placed Terah, the son of Nahor, the prince of his host, and he dignified him and elevated him above all his princes. And whilst he was reigning according to his heart's desire, after having conquered all his enemies around, he advised with his counselors to build a city for his palace, and they did so. And they found a large valley opposite to the east, and they built him a large and extensive city. And Nimrod called the name of the city that he built Shinar. For the Lord had vehemently shaken his enemies and destroyed them. And Nimrod dwelt in Shinar, and he reigned securely, and he fought with his enemies, and he subdued them. And he prospered in all his battles, and his kingdom became very great.
And his kingdom became very great. Shinar is where the Tower of Babel was built. Okay? Keep reading, Prophet.
And all nations and tongues heard of his fame, and they gathered themselves to him, and they bowed down to the earth, and they brought him offerings, and he became their Lord and King. And they all dwelt with him in the city at Shinar. And Nimrod reigned in the earth over all the sons of Noah, and they were all under his power and counsel.
Okay, so this is the problem right here. These people started putting Nimrod as king. That's fine, but Lord. All right? They call him Lord. And they did what? They bowed down?
They bowed down to him.
All right? So we know what the Ten Commandments say. Okay, number 1 says, thou shalt have no other God before thee. But read that verse one more time, Father. Let's keep reading. Read verse 45 one more time.
45? Okay. And all nations and tongues heard of his fame, and they gathered themselves to him. And they bowed down to the earth. And they brought him offerings, and he became. And they all dwelt with him in the city at Shinar. And Nimrod reigned in the earth over all the sons of Noah, and they were all under his power and counsel.
Now, we follow the tradition when we come together as a family out of love, when holidays
did not go in the ways of the Lord.
See, this is what happened. Go ahead.
And he was more wicked than all the men that were brought before him, from the days of the flood until those days.
Okay, so read verse 46 one more time.
And all the earth was of one tongue, and words of union. But Nimrod did not go in the ways of the Lord, and he was more wicked than all the men that were before him, from the days of the flood until those days.
Now, we just read in the following verses, brothers, that Nimrod built altar to the Lord, and he did sacrifices. He learned that from his forefathers. Something happened with this guy. He got lifted up in pride, didn't he? He had to.
Absolutely. Verse 47, and he made gods of wood and stone, and he bowed down to them, and he rebelled at that very point against the Lord, and taught all his subjects and the people of the earth his wicked ways.
What kind of ways?
His wicked ways.
His righteous ways?
His wicked ways.
His holy ways.
His wicked ways.
The Most High said his wicked ways.
Mm-hmm. And Mardon, his son, was more wicked than his father.